Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Eternal Midnight. I'm Santino. I'm here with Chad. What's going on, man?
What's up, dude?
And Erica. How are you, Erica?
Hey guys, I'm doing good.
All right. So we just finished Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King last week. But the story's not over because Peter Jackson returned to Middle Earth in 2012 to direct the Hobbit trilogy, which is weird because the Hobbit is one book and it's split into three movies. So let's get into it. The first Hobbit movie came out in 2012 called An Unexpected Journey, and just as a consensus, what do you guys think of it? Like, Chad, you go first. Because you watched it recently, right?
Hell yeah, I watched it recently. I watched all three of them. Well, The Hobbit really was the only one that I actually had read out of all four books. And I read it when I was younger, but I never knew it was really tied to Lord of the Rings. So when they announced they were making a trilogy of it, at first I was really excited because I hadn't read Lord of the Rings yet, but I knew I'd read The Hobbit. So I was like, okay, this is going to be really cool. I've been wanting The Hobbit since rewatching Lord of the Rings and being like, oh yeah, they alluded to it at the beginning of the movie, seeing the map with the Lonely Mountain and the dragon on it. And so the first time I watched An Unexpected Journey, I really hated it because I was like, why did they add all this extra shit to this movie? I was like, and then it was, oh, they're making a trilogy of it. And I'm like, oh, God damn it. But I was like, you know what? Hey, whatever. It's like, it's really the only opportunity we're going to have to really return to Middle Earth really ever again until they announced that they were doing the show, which I haven't heard anything recently about that. But so I just kind of like took it, and I rewatched it a few times since the first time seeing it, and I enjoy it for what it is. I think it's not like the book is like the stupidest way anybody can like view a film. And well, at least now I do, because like if we're going by that, I mean, there's so many great films that are like complete piles of shit. Then the original Jaws is almost nothing like the book. The original Jurassic Park, the movie was like stripped of so much from the book. So it's like when you watch a movie, you just got to watch it kind of like as what it is. And for what it is, I'd say An Unexpected Journey is not a bad start. I mean, for a much smaller, less at stakes type quest that they're on compared to Fellowship of the Ring, it's not a bad start at all. It's a good start. I'll leave it at that for now.
I think the reason why a lot of people don't like the Hobbit movies is because they really compare it to Lord of the Rings, which is unfair.
But the problem with that is this. The Hobbit was written more as a children's book as opposed to Lord of the Rings were not really written as kids' books like The Hobbit was.
Yeah.
So, of course, if you're going to look at the source material, which inspired the movies, you have to look at who the source material was intended for. So it's like this was and obviously they took what was a very simple quest, travel, get the mountain, kill the dragon, get the gold. They turned it into a much more Lord of the Rings prequel, whereas the original Hobbit book was not. That was more of just a fun, nice little journey, and then Lord of the Rings obviously came later. Whereas this did the exact opposite. Lord of the Rings came first, and then they tied a lot of this into Lord of the Rings. So they really did it backwards, and a lot of the Lord of the Rings references I'm fine with. They had one that was really, really, really bad and really wrong, and I'll point that one out next week.
Okay.
But I'd say for a Lord of the Rings prequel set of movies, this one was a good start. It was fine.
I think, yeah, exactly. The thing with, like, as you said, the thing with The Hobbit, the reason why it gets bad rep is because, oh my gosh, it's not as good as Lord of the Rings. But the thing is, it's an entirely different story because Lord of the Rings is a war for the world. The Hobbit is, let's kill a dragon and get the gold. It's really like a completely different. It's not like people are saying it's not as epic as Lord of the Rings. Yeah, because it's a completely different story. It's not. It will never be as epic as Lord of the Rings. All right, so that's your thoughts, Erica. What do you think? What do you think of it?
I love this. I love this so much. it had more comedy in it, and I personally enjoyed it. And I can understand some people being upset because it's different than the book, because like I can understand that, because like for me, my heart is with the Harry Potter books. And so because so much was changed and cut from Harry Potter films, it's hard for me to enjoy the films even though they're good films and majority of it is well made. So, but I loved this. I loved it. I loved all these new characters. It was hard. I literally was trying to write down names because there's so many of them. Cinematography, again, is stunning. I loved this theme of operatics in the music. There was quite a bit of that, and I really enjoyed it. Acting was superb. I personally, I was really proud of myself for knowing that the dwarves had Scottish accents and not Irish accents. I know that may seem strange, but as someone who comes from British descent, I was glad that I recognized that. It was definitely, you could tell that it was differently made. There was definitely more CGI put in than from the original ones, but I'm trying my best not to compare them because they are a different story. This one's a lot less about fighting and more about like an adventure.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think it was really good. And this song, Lonely Mountain at the end, that song's so good.
Yeah, the song Lonely Mountain is really fantastic, and I did like listening it. I listen to it every time I watch the credits to make sure I listen to it.
Yeah, same. I did that.
Okay, so you mentioned acting. Let's get into it. So we have Martin Freeman as a young Bilbo Baggins, and I stand with my unpopular opinion. I really prefer Bilbo over Frodo. I just really do.
By far. He was much more interesting and well-developed of a character than Frodo ever was.
Bilbo really...
Bilbo had more of a personality established than...
The thing with Bilbo is he got shit done. He was afraid at the beginning, and then but for example, that thing with the trolls, you know, like him using his wit to like delay the trolls from eating them long enough so that Gandalf can break the rock and the trolls can turn to stone. That was genius. It just shows that he is a cunning person, and he's afraid that he's into his home life, but when he can do it, he really can.
That speech that he made about him staying and fighting, because he's like, I miss my home, I miss my books, I miss all this, but you guys deserve a home, so I'm gonna help you get that home back. I was just like tearing up.
Yeah,
that was
really
a beautiful speech. I think I like Bilbo more than Frodo as well. But you know, to be fair with Frodo, we don't really know his personality because most of the time he was like all possessed by the ring and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, I did like the fact that Martin Freeman wasn't trying to channel a young Ian Holm. He was just doing his own thing with the character, which I really appreciate. And I did like the fact that at least right now it's something different. And okay, the thing with the Hobbit is nothing much happens to it after. I mean, like during an unexpected journey, nothing really happens that much because, like Fellowship of the Ring, this is
no, quite a bit happens.
Yeah, quite a bit happens. But like when you compare it to like Desolation and Battle of the Five Armies, there is really like.
Well, yeah, but I mean, same with the original trilogy. Fellowship had the least happening in it, but stuff still happened.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, quite a bit happens. So let's get into it. All right. So basically, we get our antagonist in the form of Azog, the White Orc, and this is where kind of my gripe happens. I don't like what they did with him. It's a really big CGI orc, and they should have just went with the makeup that they did before. They really should have. I mean, like, what do you guys think of the antagonist?
Well, he wasn't in the book.
Yeah.
But I think from what Logan told me, he's in like the indexes or something like that. I don't know. We should have had him on so he could have answered some of these questions for us. But I mean, I thought he was fine being all CGI. Yeah, but the problem is this because that's another complaint that it's like I understand, but at the same time, it's like when Lord of the Rings was made, it was just New Line Cinema. When The Hobbit was made, I mean, this was Warner Brothers getting involved. This was during the time period when because of Avatar, 3D was all over everything, and 3D is done better with CG than it is with practical effects.
Right.
So I mean, people can hold that against the movie if they want. I'll never look at someone and say they're wrong for having that thought process. But it's like you have to understand the time it was made in, and they were going to do this regardless with CGI because, like I said, originally it was Warner. It was just New Line who made it. Now New Line's part of Warner Brothers, and it's part of one of the big boys studios. They were going to do it regardless.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I would have preferred it if they did practical effects. But I understand why they wanted to make it CGI. And yes, Azog is a nice character, a nice antagonist. But the thing is, he's just kind of like, he reminded me of the Winter Soldier in Captain America. He just shows up when it's convenient. You know what I mean? Mm. Like until the very end, until the Battle of the Five Armies, when he finally comes down and like leads the army. He just shows up whenever it's convenient, and even in Desolation, he wasn't even there. Like he was fighting Gandalf, but
in Desolation, he got dragged off for his secondary purpose, though. So it's like it made sense because exactly. That's why Bulg basically got thrown into the mix.
Yeah, exactly.
My feelings on him, I think he looked cool. I think the design of him was cool looking, but he didn't really have much of a purpose except for having an antagonist following them. Like, I don't feel like he did all that much. Yeah. Except, like, one thing I will totally appreciate though is the scene where Thorin like walks through the fire to go and battle him. In like slow motion. That was such a cool scene. That was an awesome scene. You just you saw his facial expression change, and he's like, I gotta finish this. And then the one thing I gotta love is this theme of like loyalty. These dwarves have so much loyalty to each other, and then loyalty to Bilbo as well. And I got so much appreciation and respect for that.
Yeah, I got that too, and and of course the dwarves are loyal. But the thing with I want to go back to like the middle point of the movie. There's stuff that I really kind of wasn't a fan of when I watched it. The whole Radagast the Brown and the Necromancer thing. Like, yeah, I get why that was in it, but then I wasn't the biggest fan of it. And eventually the elves go to Rivendell, and we learn about the secondary plot point in this entire story. This Necromancer's coming, and the Witch King of Angmar's rising from the dead and all that. And
the thing about that is, again, it wasn't in the book, but that's not even what damages that, in my opinion. The whole bad part of that is it almost undoes the sudden fear that they had in Fellowship of the Ring of, oh my God, this is happening. It's like, yeah, but you knew, I forget, Hobbit takes place how many years before Fellowship? Like 60?
60 years.
Yeah, it's like, well, so you know Sauron is on his way back. You just don't care for 60 years, and
yeah, exactly. That's what confused me so much. Is like the fact that in Fellowship of the Ring, it was a big shock that Sauron was returning, like because we thought he was dead, right? But in this one, they're like saying like this entire council of Galadriel, Saruman, Elrond, and Gandalf are saying like, the Witch King of Angmar is rising, and there's only one person who can bring him back. That's Sauron. So like, why?
Yeah, and they already had the proof with the Morgul blade.
Yeah, exactly. So why is it a surprise that Sauron's returning when it was said?
They knew.
Yeah, when they knew. It's just like that's where I find kind of an inconsistency. It's like I'll compare it to Harry Potter a bit. Harry Potter, when Voldemort came back a second time, no one knew. It was a surprise, right? There were kind of signs, but no one actually knew. This one, like the elders or the wisest men and women on Middle Earth were given a sign that, or more than a sign, they were given the Morgul blade that showed that, hey, yeah, Sauron is returning, and we should.
And there's even more proof in the later two movies.
Yeah, exactly. So like, why didn't they like? Yeah, see, that's so. Yeah, that was so confusing.
It did the Star Wars prequels problems where it's like it focused on something that they shouldn't have because they knew what was coming later and they did it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And it just didn't make any sense to me because I just felt like, okay, Sauron's back, so why didn't you take action? Like you couldn't try to find the ring. Like if Sauron's back, which means the ring is out there, right? So anyway,
No, they said it in the movie.
what?
Saruman openly said he was like the ring was washed out to sea, remember?
Oh, right.
He's like, the ring is gone. He's like, so maybe he said that in Desolation. I don't remember. But I do remember at one point Saruman was like, the ring has been like washed out to sea. It's long gone. Sauron can never take like a physical appearance, or he can never take over Middle Earth again.
Right. That makes sense. I think. But again,
Well, the ring was required to basically bring him back to the physical, to a physical existence. So it was almost like, his presence can be there, but there's nothing. It's almost like when you're both stuck at an intersection. It's like, we know he's out there, but we can only kill him with the ring, but nobody knows where it is, so he can't come back either.
Exactly. All right, that does make sense. So after that, they go head to. The dwarves leave Gandalf alone, and they go head to the mountains where they get. Where again, I really don't get why this was added. The stone giant fight that was unnecessary.
To look cool.
It looked cool, but yeah.
That's it. To look cool.
Yeah.
Because in the book, when they were on the mountain, it was literally just they found a cave, went in, went to sleep. They woke up, and the goblins took them down into the goblins' hold. So in the movie, I guess they were like, we need to throw in another like big, epic-looking CGI scene. Yeah. It was probably just for I didn't see any of these in 3D, so I wouldn't know. But it's like I'll bet you that was just added in there to do more of the like CGI 3D. I bet for the big screen.
It did look cool. I thought it was entertaining. I didn't expect it. I didn't see it coming, personally.
Yeah, exactly. It's just there to look cool. It's like the.
Well, what's wrong with that? Is there something wrong with adding that in to look cool?
No, I mean, for me, it kind of felt shoehorned in. It kind of felt like it was not. It shouldn't have been part of this thing because it's like I don't. Like, why do you need a big CGI fight? Like, in fact, why don't you just save money from that?
And I don't remember. I mean, again, I don't remember if it was in the book or not, but it's like I don't even remember them ever really talking about giant stone giants in Middle Earth.
I don't even remember it being mentioned until that.
Because I mean, shit, those things would make some damn good allies in the middle of a war.
Yeah, like, and they're never like anyway. Let's forget it. So they get captured by the goblins, and this is where my favorite scene in the movie happens, and I really want to talk about it. It's where Bilbo gets separated from the dwarves, lands in the cave, and meets Gollum and finds the ring, the one ring. So this to me shows Bilbo's cunning and skill and quick wit with words, because he's verbally sparring with Gollum with riddles, and this is essentially what drives Lord of the Rings in the future, because Bilbo gets the one ring here. So Erica, what do you think of that one, the riddles in the dark scene?
That was really cool. I could tell that this version of Gollum was a little less like fucked up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like a little less insane of like looking. He has the precious, and then it's like once Bilbo takes it, he starts going a little bit more crazy. But I thought it was really cool. The whole thing with the riddles, I thought was really, really interesting to see. I thought it was a smart way, and like the way that just the interactions between Gollum and Bilbo was an interesting twist, and I think the setting of where they were was really cool too, and Bilbo finding the ring, it was one of those things of like you gasp. I was like, oh, there's the ring. I thought it was a cool scene. Does Gollum show up again?
That's it. Until Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah, okay.
Because like there's no way to put him in the rest of the movie, the rest of the Hobbit trilogy. Because no, in the book, this really happened. Like Gollum really showed up, and Bilbo got the ring from him. So this was essential. Basically, like I like it personally. This was my favorite scene because it's essentially a verbal sparring. Like Bilbo's trying to stay alive, and like he's doing riddles with Gollum, and he's expecting Gollum to be dumb and be like, I don't know any of this, but like Gollum's pretty smart too. Like when Bilbo does the first riddle with the teeth, like 30 white horses on a red hill. First they champ, then they stamp, and they stop. What is it? And then Gollum really thinks. Like you can tell, like that's what Andy Serkis is brilliant, because like he's really thinking, and you can see the confusion is in his face. And like when he gets, it's like, and like so that you can say, like, oh, shit, like he's actually not as dumb as you think. You know that
it added intelligence to both of the characters, and I feel like that definitely added character depth and growth there.
Yeah, exactly.
Added more intelligence.
What about you, Chad? The entire Rails of the Dark. What do you think of it? Like, you like it?
I was so pumped to actually see it in live action when I first went in, and it's still one of my favorite scenes of the entire movie. Just because it's so iconic. It's like one of the most iconic like scenes from like everyone who's ever read The Hobbit. It's like the most iconic scene ever, and they completely nailed the landing with it. And it just again with seeing Andy Serkis again back as Gollum and Martin Freeman's performance, just the two of them, they just worked off each other so well, I thought, with how their banter just went back and forth. And this really was like when Bilbo's courage really was building like more than it had. And I mean, it basically like caps at the end of the movie. I think his bravery like caps at the end of the movie, where it's like, I almost wish they'd saved that cap for like later in the whole trilogy, because it was like, I mean, how much braver could you really get than what he does right at the end with Azog? But it's
yeah.
So it's like, it's already building up to it. But I mean, the rest of the Goblin Kingdom, I mean, I've heard nothing but like negative stuff for all of it, mostly because of the Goblin King.
I don't.
But yeah, I can understand why. But I will say that the look of the regular goblins, I love, because it's like in Lord of the Rings, they all had that kind of like warriorish look to them, like, you know, they had armor on. It was cool seeing these just dirty, ugly goblins that just like live within the mountain doing fuck knows what else, and they're just these hideous, ugly beasts. And I thought that was a cool side of seeing more of the animalistic side of these things.
Yeah, I agree.
One thing I did like is that it shows how badass Gandalf is. Like there's this one scene like this white light engulfs the goblins, and then you can see Gandalf like, take up arms, fight now. And like, oh shit! So like, you know, Gandalf got shit done. And again, I didn't mention him until now, but like, I'm so happy Ian McKellen returned as Gandalf for these three.
Yeah, Ian McKellen.
I mean, we're lucky they were alive.
Yeah, dude, I'm so happy. I mean, Ian McKellen's kind of old, so I'm really glad.
Both him and Christopher Lee. I mean, obviously it was quite a while later, but I mean, these guys majorly looked their age this time.
Mm-hmm.
These guys look far, far older than they did in the original trilogy.
Oh yeah. The thing is, that's why it's like when you have the riddles in the dark, and the thing with the goblins and Gandalf escaping, it's not as entertaining or not as interesting. I wasn't really interested. Like I get they're gonna escape, so I know they're gonna live through this. It's just the fact that I don't see it. I really like. Oh yeah, again, it's interesting, but I prefer the riddles of the dark. So I do love that scene where Bilbo escapes, and like he has his sword to Gollum's neck, and it's like he's really contemplating, like, should I kill him? Should I really? No, I won't. And then again, it calls back to Fellowship of the Rings, like where Gandalf said it was pity that stayed Bilbo's hand. You know, like that was it. You know, he saw Gollum's like face, and it was sad, and like, all right, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm gonna go. So like he leaves, and then yeah, the entire climax of the movie happens here. And this is what, like, you know, Bilbo has been kind of a coward through this entire like movie. And yeah, when as Chad mentioned, when Thorin's back against the corner, Azog is about to kill him. There goes Bilbo, attacks Azog with he's so short, and Azog's like, what the fuck? You know, like what the hell are you? And then I love how all the dwarves just come in and like, you know,
loyalty. I love that. Yeah.
I love how and yeah, they Azog, and then the giant eagles come and save him. So that's the entire.
Yeah, it was definitely. I'd say it was not as it wasn't as exciting as a finale as Fellowship was, I'd say, for the first chapter of a trilogy. But I mean, hey, for those who hadn't read the books, I'm sure the Eagles just came the fuck out of nowhere for anyone who was just like, oh shit, I wasn't expecting them to, how the hell they were going to get off that mountaintop.
Yeah, the Eagles. That was pretty cool. I just want to bring up a line that Thorin says to Bilbo about him saving them, and he said like, I have never been so wrong in all my life about what he said about Bilbo. Because one of the things that I wasn't like, I was like, I don't like Thorin's attitude towards him, and then after that it like changes, and it's just like he admits that he was wrong, and I got respect for that. And then the song of the Lonely Mountain. That was such an awesome song.
Yeah, so basically, the entire climax. I mean, like it's not it's not like a Fellowship of the Ring climax, but again, it wasn't trying to be. It was trying to be its own thing, which I did like. So they escape, and the lonely, and they see at the end of the movie they see the Lonely Mountain, and Smaug wakes up. So that's where we leave off on an unexpected journey, and it segues right into Desolation of Smaug. And Chad, you don't like this movie.
No. This is easily the worst one of all 6 movies. This movie just drags. It took 3 nights to watch this thing.
Fair, yes.
It was like, I hit the point where they first got to Lake Town, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go do something else. And I'm like, I don't even know how long I've been watching it, and I go to turn it off, and I just like brought up the thing on the bottom where it shows where you're at, and it was at the halfway point. I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. I'm like, how is this not almost done yet? And it's just, I don't know. It's just like going through the forest takes forever, it feels like. Like, it just doesn't seem to end. And then when it does, and you look at the timer of where you're at, you're like, oh my God, I'm only like an hour into this movie, maybe. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then just, I probably the only 2 things about this movie, probably the only 2 characters I legitimately enjoy in this movie is Bard and Toriel. The rest, I just like those out there. Oh, Smaug's a badass. No, I'm not impressed by his design aside from his eyes.
You don't like Bilbo in this movie, Chad? You don't like Bilbo in this movie?
He's fine, but I mean, his arc of going from I need a handkerchief to staring down like the most violent orc in all of Middle Earth kind of capped him off. I mean, it's not revealed until the next movie what goes on with the Arkenstone. So it's like that part of his character arc hasn't been revealed yet. And I'd say going into the mountain, yes and no, because I mean, he had the ring by this point. He already knew what it did. So it's almost like that almost takes away from any true bravery you could have given him, because it's like the guy can just go invisible whenever he wants. And
yeah, okay.
I don't know. I don't know. This movie just doesn't do it for me. It really doesn't.
I understand your complaints. Yes, it doesn't work for you. To me, it does. This was also honestly trivia. The first Middle Earth movie I saw in theaters, I watched this in IMAX. I was like, all right. So yeah, I was impressed. And then like after I watched the second time, like, okay, yes, I get the changes. I get the gripes you have with the story. Like, okay, yeah, it does drag on. What did you think of it, Erica?
I actually really loved this. I liked this one better than the other one. I saw you roll your eyes there, Santino. I don't know, personally for me, I found like, yeah, there were parts of it that was slow, but basically once they reached like the Elvish town, it just got pretty interesting, and I enjoyed that part. I liked that we got to see all these new worlds, new creatures. Like they visited so many new places, and I liked getting into the castle in the mountain. I thought that was really cool. Like I don't know if it was set design or special effects or how they designed it, but it was pretty cool seeing that. I was entertained, and I liked all these new characters, and I'm sorry, I just don't agree with you guys there.
I like it more than on Unexpected Journey. I just feel like yes, I have to agree with Chad at some point where it does drag on because as I rewatched it, 3 hours for a movie, it's like you could have like I picked points where like you could have just cut this part out and it would have made the movie like a lot better and a lot more easier to film. There's a lot to unpack on it. So let's get into it. So they go. So I'm I'm gonna skip the bear because like I don't think anyone wants to talk about.
Yeah, there's not much to say. I mean, Bjorn was cool, but I mean, aside from showing up for the final fight, he didn't add anything to the story. He was in the book. That was about it.
I'm just gonna go right ahead to them in the forest and the spiders. The spiders, I was scared shitless when I saw the spiders. I was like, damn, that's disgusting. I did like the creative choice they made where Bilbo puts on the ring and he hears the spiders talking about how they're gonna eat them. Although from what I've heard from Dylan, my best friend who Lord of the Rings fanatic, the spiders talk without the ring regardless, right, Chad? Is that the case?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I haven't read the book in like 15 years.
All right, yeah. So I heard that the spiders talk regardless. Okay, yeah. So those spiders were cool, and you guys wanna talk about the spiders, or like you have anything to say? And Chad, nah. You're like,
I thought it was cool the way
It's
that
just another scene. I mean, didn't do anything for the movie.
I thought it was cool the way that Bilbo like jumped down and was like cutting all the dwarves out of the webs.
yeah, that makes sense. I did like it, and then the scene that I really do like from that entire like spider segue, spider scene or that entire plot is that when that little baby spider comes out and tries and like is putting on the ring by accident, and Bilbo just goes nuts and like stabs the thing to death, and he's like, mine. So like you can see like, oh shit, like it's already kind of corrupting him. Like,
Yeah, I was noticing in this one that the ring is starting to affect Bilbo.
yeah, it's really affecting him to the point like he's hungry for power. And I did like that. So okay, so like we meet Tariel and Legolas, and okay, Legolas. A lot of people complain that he was a dick in this one, and I'm like, well, yeah, because he didn't get the character development yet that he got.
Yeah.
Like again, this is 60 years before Lord of the Rings, so he's a bit more brash, he's younger and all that. And I'm gonna agree with Chad here. The best character in this movie was Tariel. I did like Tariel a lot in this movie. She was a fantastic character, and she was entertaining to watch. And yes, I'm of the unpopular opinion that I do like the romance that she had with, was it Feely or Keely? Keely, right? Yeah. I did like the romance that she had with Kitty, and I was like, yeah, I get it was forced and it could have been done better, but yeah, it was cute. It was like, yeah, I'll accept it, So
I personally liked that. There's a funny line, like right when they get captured, where Keely's like, I could have anything down my trousers, and then she just looks at him and she's like, or nothing, and then she closes the gate and locks it. That made me laugh way more than it should have.
All right, so the dwarves are locked in the cage, and okay, we meet Thranduil, played by Lee Pace, who is really good with his role. I did enjoy it. And any thoughts about him, Chad, or just another character?
He's a fucking asshole, but he's awesome.
Yeah,
He's
like the biggest dickbag on the planet, but it's like you still respect the fuck out of him.
Yeah,
or at least I do.
Yeah.
And then you see like I like that scene where he's like, I have faced the great serpents of whatever, and then, like his like entire face deteriorates. Like, whoa, what the fuck, So the dwarves get captured, and again here, this is where where I profess that Bilbo's a lot more useful now than he was in An Unexpected Journey, because he breaks the dwarves out. He unlocks the gate and lets them go, and we have the entire cool action scene of like the orcs attacking and the elves fighting with the dwarves and the orcs fighting with the elves. Like that sequence was awesome. So like, Chad, did you like that sequence, or was it, you didn't know? Okay.
No, it was pure CGI.
Okay.
I mean, it's like I can understand stuff like obviously what comes in the next movie. There needing to be a bunch of CGI for some of the stuff we see in that. But this was just a powerhouse of CGI.
Yeah.
It's just like you could have done some of it with practical.
Yeah.
It's like you said, now we're at the point where it's like almost every like the fact that Bolg and Azog never had like a physical character. They were always a CGI character. It's like really the point where it's like now this really is starting to stand out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just dragged. It just that whole thing on the river just was so long.
Right.
I personally really liked it, and honestly, I didn't. I was so entertained by it that I didn't really I didn't notice that it was all CGI. But one thing I want to say about this sequence, though, is Orlando Bloom's fighting skills have totally you can see that he's more experienced, and that's all thanks to Pirates of the Caribbean and all the fighting that he did in that one. And I'm not saying he wasn't good in Lord of the Rings. It's just he seemed to be a lot more doing a lot more of fighting, of not a lot more, but more skilled fighting. At least that's what we saw.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I just got to give praise to that, and that's probably all because he was in 3 Lord of the Rings movies. So.
Yeah, exactly. And
He was in 3 Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And 3, I don't know. My brain just had a malfunction.
And I did like the fact that as they were fighting, it was entertaining. It was entertaining to see Evangeline Lilly fight. I mean, I've been following her since her first feature length movie, the Real Steel movie, to Endgame. So it's oh, that's awesome that she's she's kicking ass and doing all this stuff. So again,
I thought it was really cool the way that the dwarves were fighting without really having any weapons too.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, that was also awesome and very creative. And again, Bilbo was a lot more useful now because he did break them out, and he did show them oh, this is where we go. We take the barrels up the river, and we'll get to the lake, and then we'll go to the Lonely Mountain. So he figured it out, which is why I think that, in my opinion, he was more useful now than he is. And since this movie is called The Hobbit, I was oh my god, thank God Bilbo was more interesting now than he was in Unexpected Journey, which I did like. I mean, that's just me personally. All right, before we get into so they escape, and then before we get to the whole Bard and Lake Town, there's an entire secondary plot which I want to delve into now because I don't want to delve into it later because there's still a lot to unpack. And yes, this is what I don't like about this movie. It's the entire Gandalf necromancer plot. I don't like it at all.
Yeah, that was kind of boring. I was just kind of okay, I want to get back to the other part.
it's not the fact that it's boring. It could have been interesting, but it doesn't make any sense for Gandalf because okay, so let's dive into it. Gandalf goes to, following Radagast's advice, sees the fact that the tombs of the ring wraiths have been broken in, and they've escaped. So now the ring wraiths are free, and they've headed to Dol Guldur, this giant castle, and Gandalf inspects it, and he gets attacked by Sauron. As in, he sees the eye of Sauron coming to him and breaking his staff, and saying and he says his name, Sauron, you're alive, and all that. So why is Gandalf shocked that Sauron is alive in Fellowship of the Ring?
That's what I mean. And again, going to the book. In the book, it was literally just there was a necromancer, but they never delved on it. It was something that was out there that was inspected, and that the book never cut away to it as a secondary plot point. But I guarantee that was just a studio mandate of, if this is going to be a prequel, you have to shove references to Lord of the Rings into it. I mean, that's really the only reason it was there, because if they cut all that stuff out, I think the movie probably could have flowed a little bit better.
Yeah, but it's got to make sense. If you're going to put a Lord of the Rings reference, you don't put the giant eye of Sauron in, because, in Fellowship of the Ring, again, I'm sorry not to compare it to Fellowship of the Ring, but I'm going to do my best not to, but, again, in Fellowship of the Ring, Gandalf was shocked that the ring was back and Sauron has returned because he thought he was dead. But 60 years ago, if you're following the Hobbit timeline, he was pinned by him to a wall. So why are you shocked he's back exactly?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a plot hole that they put.
Bad writing, bad idea including it in the movie.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of it exactly. I didn't like it.
It's like a McGonagall and Crimes of Grindelwald situation.
Exactly. It's something like that. It's like it doesn't add up to the timeline. And it doesn't make sense. Because it should have made sense when it came to the lore of like, okay, Sauron should be back. So why aren't we doing anything about it? I mean, like, why does Gandalf wait 60 years until he does something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, it doesn't make any sense. And they try to tie it in Battle of the Five Armies, but it just doesn't work. I mean, personally, it just doesn't work. And again, Sauron in this doesn't work because it doesn't make sense for the timeline. I mean, like, what did you think, Chad and Erica? I mean, like, what you think?
That whole edition, I mean, it just, I don't know. It was one of those things of like, if they removed it, like I'm actually gonna watch Five Armies tonight. I haven't watched that one yet, but I mean, if you were to remove it, I don't know how much. Like, it probably affects the plot for the next one.
Yeah, it does.
But in this one, you're kind of just sitting there and being like, okay, what does this have to do with the other stuff? So it's like, I mean, it was interesting, but I found myself a little bit more bored and more wanting to go back to what the dwarves and Bilbo were up to.
Yeah, exactly. I found myself like I found one unnecessary and two not making sense at all because Sauron was not supposed to be revealed until Fellowship of the Ring, and that doesn't make any sense. It won't more when we get to Five Armies. Trust me. Well, anyway, so yeah, Gandalf gets pinned and gets caged, and we won't see him until Battle of the Five Armies. So let's get back to the dwarves. All right, so the dwarves and Bard and Lake Town. All right, so yes, we agree with Chad. Bard, and I like Bard. I like what he's doing. I like, he's a family man. He's trying to provide for his family. But
And Luke Evans is just fucking awesome.
and Luke Evans is
He
great,
is. Yeah. He was a cool character. I liked seeing him.
but I don't like Lake Town. Lake Town was just a boring. It just felt like you were there.
Way too long. Way too fucking long.
Filler. It feels like you were there to kill time, and I just didn't like. All right, I don't understand what's going on. All right, can we just get to the dragon already, please? So, I won't want to spend much time on Lake Town. Maybe we get to see Stephen Fry and all that, and like, all right, okay. Who gives a damn? So, Feely gets. Oh yeah, I completely forgot about that. Feely gets shot with a poison arrow, and he stays behind with some of the dwarves.
Yeah.
All right, that was just like okay. Again, that's just an excuse for Tariel to show up and for them to do the entire like fight scene, like make it not seem a bit boring. And again, if you guys want to talk about that, feel free. I personally don't see anything by it. It was
it was just cool seeing. It was awesome seeing another badass girl warrior. I really liked that.
Yeah, I agree, and I guess the most interesting part was like when Legolas killed that one orc with his like knives, and he dropped.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Legolas' fighting skills were awesome in this.
All right, yeah, exactly, and all right, so nothing to talk about Lake Down anyway, because like Lake Down's just Lake Down. I'm glad, to be honest, it burned in Battle of the Five Armies, but we'll get to that later. Okay.
I just watched the trailer before that. I was like, oh, shit. I haven't watched Five Armies yet, so.
All right, so let's get into it. Okay, so Smaug. So they get into the mountain, and again, if you guys want to talk about the last moon of autumn showing upon the keyhole, I thought that was a good twist. They're like, oh, it's not the sun, it's the moon, which makes sense because it was moon runes doing it. So yeah, okay, yeah, the moon, not the sun. All right.
I thought the whole sequence of them walking, like opening the door and all of them walking in, was really, really well done. It was chilling. There's awesome music, and the whole design of the entire castle was beautiful.
Yes, the entire castle was amazing. And let's get into it. Finally, after like what 30 minutes of discussion of this, we finally get to Smaug, the dragon. The whole reason why we're here, and I did like him. Benedict Cumberbatch was amazing as Smaug, and the visual effects were.
But that's because the guy just has an amazing voice.
Yeah.
So it's like have him voice anything, and it's going to be amazing.
Yes, but
Like
I
Morgan
did like,
Freeman.
I did like Smaug I did like Benedict Cumberbatch as Smaug. But is he the best visual effect of the 2010s? No, he's not.
Honestly, like when I was watching it, I wasn't sitting there and being like, wow, the dragon looks so cool. I was just like, okay, it's a dragon. It didn't stand out. Like it wasn't.
It didn't stand out at all. I mean, like he was intimidating because he had Benedict Cumberbatch's voice. But that was. I mean, like I did like the banter he had with Bilbo, and like he's mocking Bilbo, like, "Oh, you barrel rider, you thief in the shadows." Like, oh yeah, you're intimidating as hell. And like when they get down to like when Bilbo's fighting the dwarves and the dragon, it's like, oh yeah, it was entertaining to watch, but again, it wasn't like I'm really into it. I mean, like it was fun. Like the fact that I like that scene. I do like that scene where they're like they sit in the they go into the cellar and they see all the dwarves like who died before. Like we're not gonna end up like this. We're gonna fight to our last breath. And I'm like, and I like what Thorin said. Like if this is to end in fire, we'll all burn together. Like that's awesome. Like yes.
Yeah. Right. One thing that with Thorin is you can already kind of see him changing a little bit with regards to finding that stone.
Yeah, exactly. He's becoming obsessed with the stone, and you can tell, like, you know, the mountain. Like as he gets more to the mountain, he becomes more obsessed with the mountain. So I did like oh shit, you know, like
this is my kingdom, or you know that kind of thing.
Exactly.
But yeah.
So eventually we head up to they do the thing where like they're gonna burn the gold and all that, and the gold. The CGI
that was bad and stupid.
Atrocious. Like wow, what the hell?
Which part are you talking about?
The CGI gold. It was like it was bad. It looked like like I watched when I was 12, right? And usually when I'm 12, I'm impressed by everything, and I could tell like that looked like shit. That looked like it's fake.
Are you talking about the melted gold?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it looked like
that looked weird. At first, I thought like, what is it? I wasn't totally sure. Like they could have actually made it real. That could have been easy to do something like that.
Yeah, and then when Smaug got covered with the CGI gold, I was like, that just looked worse. That looks terrible. It looks something straight out. You know, one of those like sci-fi monster channels, like Sharknado.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looked like that. It looked terrible. It looked like what the hell is going on with this? It didn't. It looked like it was so. It looked like it just downgraded for a bit, and it's like, you know, Smaug was intimidating when he wasn't covered in CGI gold. So, yeah, you know, Smaug gets covered in CGI gold and he escapes. And, you know, I'm trying to agree with Chad where, like, yeah, there's not really much to talk about. It was just a middle point chapter.
And the funny thing is, why was it called The Desolation of Smaug? What did he do in this movie that caused desolation?
I have no idea.
He didn't do it till the next damn movie. I don't get it. They needed a big finale. Why didn't they just make the beginning of 5 Armies the finale of this movie? Because this was the most lackluster, boring finale out of all 6 movies.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like, with me, like, I understand all of your points. But I just found this one, I don't know. I found there to be, like, a lot of things going on, and with like I found like every stage of where they were was entertaining for me. But maybe like after another watch, my opinion will change. Or I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, again, it's a fun movie to watch, and there's really cool scenes. I'm not gonna deny it. I'm a fan of it. It's just the fact that as I think about it, yeah, there's parts where it drags on, and then like the entire Gandalf subplot of the Necromancer doesn't make sense anyway, because Sauron is not supposed to be revealed until Fellowship of the Ring. So it's like I don't. Yeah, again, it's confusing, and I feel like
Yeah, and for me, this was the second time I'd ever watched it. The first time I watched it, I couldn't. I hated it the first time I watched it. Like the first time I watched this one, it was the reason I didn't see Battle of Five Armies in theaters. And so going into it, like I hadn't watched it since like 2014, probably when it was like out on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever. And just I was like so unimpressed. And so when it came to like rewatching it now, I was like, all right, it's been a long time since you watched it. Come on, let this be the time where I find the stuff that I like about it, because I wanted to like it, and it almost felt like it was even worse than the first time. So it's like this is just one of those movies where it's like I'm probably not gonna watch this now for like a decade or something, or until somebody who's never seen it like wants to watch it with me or something. But other than that, I'm never gonna return to this one.
It's a better middle point than Last Jedi, though. I'll say that.
It wasn't as insulting as The Last Jedi, at least.
Yeah. All right, so that's where we'll leave it off. Smaug escapes, and he's about to burn Lake Town, and then cue the Ed Sheeran song. All right.
Just end. How are you gonna end the movie like that? I mean, did they really need like that big of a cliffhanger to get people to go see Battle of Five Armies? Couldn't they have done something like? Couldn't they have done something with like, I don't know, Sauron or something to like be the big hook to come see Battle of Five? Something, I don't know, but it's like you took what should have been the damn finale of the movie and you shove it at the beginning of the next one.
Yeah.
I think
it doesn't make any sense.
It should have, if you were gonna make the movie super long, why not just extend it a little bit longer?
Or cut out a lot of that like just bullshit we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, cut out the entire leg down. Like they arrive, they help, the people help them, and
I think it was because they wanted us to like pity these people, but it's like aside from Bard and his kids, it's like, I mean, it's just another bog standard town full of poor people during the Middle Ages. Yeah. Like, who gives a damn?
Part with their like mayor guy, or what is he called? The guy with the ugly hair.
I have no idea what he's.
Anyways, that whole part with him was so unnecessary. They could have cut all that. Like, it's just some greedy, weird guy. It was so unnecessary to have him there.
Yeah. So basically, yeah. Again, we'll leave off with Smaug about to burn Lake Town, and that's it. All right. So next
exciting end.
Next week, we're gonna talk about the final Middle Earth story. And Chad, you talked to me, you messaged me a few days ago saying that you actually had fun with it.
Hell yeah, CGI War the movie. I loved it more. I loved it the second time I watched it, because that's all the movie is. It's CGI War the film. But it was fun as hell. I mean, hey, at least shit was happening, unlike this one. At least, honestly, I was never bored once in Battle of the Five Armies.
All right, so next week we're going to be talking about The Hobbit, the Battle of the Five Armies. So for now, I'm Santino, signing off.
I'm Chad. Have a good one, guys.
Zerka, thanks for listening. Please give us a like, subscribe, let us know what you think of these movies.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.